Hey guys, and welcome once again to the beautiful madness of the Greenskins. That's right, I'm a rubber duck of war, and I'm going to be leading the Green Boys up against Danger Dave and his vampire count. Should be a good fun scrap, and I know some of you guys might be getting a little bit sick of the Greenskin replays recently, particularly because we're all still suffering from PTSD of Grom and just the horrible abuse that was the Greenskin Force before they got debuffed, but I'm trying my best to make them fun again, and honestly, I've been having an absolute whale of a time. A lot of full Gobbo builds recently, but today we're coming in with a full Savage Orc build. That's right, coming in with the absolute madness, of course led by Wurzag, the most savage of all the Greenskins himself. So let's go into our build. For the main formation, we have Savage Orc Biggins dotted all the way along, as well as a couple of basic units of Savage Orcs in the centre of that formation. In the back, we have a few reserves as well, one more unit of Savage Orc Biggins, as well as 2 units of Savage Orc Boar Boys, one on either side. And that is because a lot of people don't seem to know this. Greenskins, much like Bretonia, are secretly a range faction. They have some really cost-effective archers. Not the best accuracy in the universe, but if you could have 1 arrow kill 1 man every time, or 100 arrows which could kill between 10 to 20 people, you're going to go for the 100 arrows, and it really is quantity over quality with the Greenskins, much like it is with peasant mobs. So we have a load of Savage Orc Arrow Boys in the back, not terrible up against vampire counts, to be honest, because zombie summons pop up on them, and the Savage Orcs love a good scrap in combat, so put down their bows, lift up those clubs, and get to shanking. We do have the mighty Wurzag, of course, the great green prophet as he is called, ride into battle on his glorious mount to get a little neck scratch just to let him know he's not a boring Tuskor chariot, so we do like him quite a bit. Wurzag looking epic as always, really one of the best models. I love his little squig as well in the cage on his back. He's coming in with Effigy of the Git, able to pin opponents in place. Get back here, the Foot of Gork, Fist of Gork, as well as Brainbuster. Fist of Gork is an absolute must in this matchup, because it does imbue one of your units with magic damage, and of course the vampire counts can bring a lot of ethereal foes, although not too many to date. For my opponent, he has Felbats up in the sky, supporting a Strigoi Vampire Lord, coming in with all of the goodies. It looks like we do indeed have Invocation of Nahek, as well as Doom and Darkness, and of course all the usual kind of bound items and abilities like the Opal Amulet, Power Stone, all the traditional competitive stuff. We do have a 1 Vargulf down here in the centre, as well as the Mortis Engine, and then it's just a bucket ton of filthy, unwashed, rotten corpses in the form of zombies. Double White King as well, set up as usual, and then we have the Sternsman and some more Graveguard and Skeleton Spearmen holding down the back line. So really relying here on those heroes, single entities, as well as the Lord to get the job done today. We have 1 unit of Crypt Ghouls. I don't hate this pick. I mean, they do decent damage and should be able to chair through goblins quite quickly, but of course, I don't have any goblins on display. We're coming in with the more savage theme here today. As you can see, we're going to be rotating our entire build around. I wanted to... So my opponent was doing a flank overload. So if your opponent does do a flank overload, simply rotate your entire force round until you're pressurizing their other side of the battle line. And you can really start to push in and get aggressive. And it's going to make the opponent's flank a little bit slower to actually come in and do that overload. It also buys you time to move your cavalry and other units to that side to help counterpunch if you want. Or you can bring them around to this side to crash into the left-hand side of the enemy. At the moment, we're still playing relatively balanced. Just trying to rotate round, keeping an eye on this right-hand flank as well. The Felbats really are going to do too much damage, and I'm not that scared of the Vargulf or the Strigoi Vampire Lord jumping on top of my Savage Orc Biggins. These poor little Savage Orcs on the flank, though, are about to get surrounded and jumped on, but they do come with a relatively decent bonus versus large, so taking on the Vampire Lord isn't going to be the end of the world whatsoever. We're also going to counter-charge with some Savage Orc Boar Boys. Look at these lads go. They're so excited to hop into the madness. Unfortunately, some Felbats do counter-charge them, but we just eviscerate them in a matter of seconds, and now we have the support of the Savage Orc Arrow Boys raining shots in, going after that Vampire Lord as well as the Vargulf, and all the Felbats are going to be dying here, and you know, doing half health to the Savage Orc Biggins isn't the end of the world for me, but at the same time is no small damage either. In the main fight, you can see zombies getting butchered by Savage Orcs. This is to be expected, and unfortunately the Crypt Ghouls will be having quite a tough fight. The Savage Orc Biggins are just far more elite, and all our arrows are starting to sing. We still have a couple of units kept into reserve at this moment. We did eventually push our second unit of Savage Orc Boar Boys out over to this flank. We managed to force away a lot of the enemy units. We did have that unit of Savage Orc Biggins break, but they should be able to come back because those Felbats have been driven away from the main fight. Skeleton Spearmen trying to push onto our Savage Orc Boys. We're simply going to rotate and fall back away away from them. Decent damage is being done now. You can see the Crypt Ghouls are taking considerable fire damage from the long-range attacks of ourselves here. And we are coming with a Brainbuster on the Graveguard, doing a little bit of damage, nothing too much to be honest. We should have overcast it, but I was a little bit scared. I don't want to get Wuzag sniped, because a Giant Flying Lord is a good answer to him. The War does go down, boosting up the Savage Orcs to 72 melee attack. That is very impressive stuff. The Savage Orc Biggins up to 72 as well, and they really are ripping and tearing with absolute glee, pulling apart the Crypt Horrors and laughing at their corpses. Mortis Engine has engaged in combat, but we now have double Savage Orcs just raining shots down. My opponent's doing a decent job though. He has found some gaps in my battle line. He's going to be trying to drive home with the Graveguard to shut down the Orc Arab boys, but we do have a decent amount of melee troops that can fall back to help support. Likewise, some Crypt Ghouls were summoned on one of my units, but we don't care too much. You can see they're actually getting their asses kind of handed to them by the Orc Arab boys there. Big Fat Brainbuster does come in doing some decent damage. Vargulf is taking a bucket ton of long-range fire now. Invocation Heck is going to try to keep it topped up. However, it looks like our cavalry were used to try to pin in these single entities, but unfortunately are getting dragged down here, which isn't good news for us whatsoever. Vargulf did decide to go after Wurzag, but eventually goes, you know what, I'm going to try to shut down the Orc Arrows instead, who have now eventually been overwhelmed. So we're going to kite back with this other unit just to try to buy time for us to secure the back line once more. The Graveguard who did hop in are now being picked apart by the Savage Orcs and Savage Orc Biggins here. Wurzag's even considering diving into combat, looking to bring down the enemy, and it looks like we are going to come in just with a little bit of get back here, just increasing our leadership to continuously make us fight more and more. And that Vargulf is really living life dangerously. You can see its healing cap now has appeared on its bar. We might be able to pin it in place hopefully with an effigy of the Git at some point and really start pouring on that fire. Lovely little Brainbuster does come down on the Graveguard. Not only is it going to do decent damage to them, but it is also going to be imbuing us all with the Bonewood Staff, increasing our melee attack map-wide. It is such a powerful item that Wurzag does indeed wield here. The cavalry have returned and managed to rescue the unit of Savage Orc Arab boys. That's really good news for us. Though the Strigoi Vampire Lord is very, very healthy still. I still think my opponent needs to be a little bit more aggressive with him. He is not a squishy tool. You can really dart around and do some pretty big damage. The Orc Arab boys are, well, Savage Orc Arab boys I should say, are trying to shoot the Mortis Engine on the approach, but are going to have to stick it out in combat, not exactly where they want to be. But luckily we have the Savage Orc Boar boys rotating around, going to be trying to come up around and pin in at these large targets if possible. Vargulf somehow is still going. I cannot express the amount of arrows that are in this guy right now. It is so ridiculous. The Savage Orc Arab boys continue to fire in though. It might be able to reach the battle line. It has started to crumble down to just 400 HP on one last victorious charge, maybe straight up in. It does manage to engage in combat, but we have the War fueling us. We should be able to take him down in combat, and down he falls. Stonesmen are still relatively healthy, pushing once more towards our back line, and we have managed to catch the Mortis Engine with an effigy of the Git, pinning it in place. That's going to allow our Savage Orc Arab boys to continuously pour on that fire. Likewise, the Savage Orcs should be able to do relatively decent damage in combat. White King's being overwhelmed simply by the sheer weight of numbers at the moment. The Crypt Ghoul summon is still going relatively strong. We did pin them in place for a while with the Boar boys, who are now starting to retreat back, but I need to keep them nice and tight to Wurzag just in case the Vampire Lord does decide to dart down on me. I need to find a way to pin him in place and rescue my troops. Mortis Engine does seem to go down here. A lovely little death streak. Unfortunately, doesn't really catch too many of my troops, actually. And we do decide to turn and fight with the Savage Orc Arab boys, so we can bring a big old meaty footed Orc down upon my enemy. Massive damage to the Sternsman there. Yeah, it's going to kill my own troops, but they were dead anyway. And the Savage Orc Biggins will be charging with a gusto now into those weakened Sternsmen. My opponent is really losing on the balance of power now, down to just 53 models, up against 452. We pop a lovely little get back here just to encourage the lads to continuously fight even harder. And the Vampire Lord is now just a swarm of Greenskins. Look at this green tide on the hunt, on the prowl. This is what we were bred for, to kill and hunt down those lesser beings. And the vampires, oh for sure, the Strigoi Vampire Lord is nothing compared to the might of Gork and Mork. Wurzag is going to continue just to stay out of combat, allow my other troops to surround and drag down the Vampire Lord. Now, there's not too many ways back in this for my opponent, I don't think. Brainbuster does go down on the Sternsman, just trying to get that damage where possible, but also proc the extra bonus to our attacks. But a lovely, lovely Overcast Doom and Darkness goes down, and my troops are starting to break and get terrified. Yes, they have immune to psychology, but only when their frenzy is active, and their frenzy's not looking too good so far. We do dance around with Wurzag nearby the lads to try to entertain them and keep them in the fight. We're also going to be casting spells just to proc once again our lovely bonus there. Fistigor goes down, extra melee attack, up to 74 melee attack on these guys. Should be enough to drag down the Vampire Lord. He's got all his buffs active, the Ghoulkin, the Claws, everything to try to keep somehow fighting. The Sternsmen, though, are starting to falter, and a lot of our lads did run away, but they should be able to come back to fight another day. And now the Savage Orcs have absolutely nothing shutting them down, and we still have decent amounts of ammunition along all of them. Should be enough to bring down the mighty beast, and with that, my opponent decides, you know what? I don't think I've got much chance here, and he respectfully bows out. Very well played, though. Super fun game. I hope you guys liked the theme builds. I used to do this ages ago where we'd do like a full female build or full skirmish build, full cav build, and I thought, you know what? I want to make Greenskins fun again. I had a load of fun playing the full goblin builds, so now we're going to be coming in with the old full Savage Orc build. Well played to Danger Dave, though. I think he put up a pretty damn good fight. It was certainly a really fun showdown indeed. And I think only a few mistakes really not getting the Destroyed Vampire Lord engaged in combat to the later stages of the game. He should have been hunting Wurzag, making me constantly worried and stressing my micro, because we managed to get some pretty decent engagements and keep the majority of our Savage Orc Arrow boys firing just time and time again, because we didn't have to worry about Wurzag being sniped. But nonetheless, that's really just nitpicking. Danger Dave, you did a fantastic job. No one, though, can stand before the might of the Savage Ones. Hope you guys enjoyed this battle. We will be popping into damage dealt and damage value of all of the units in just a second. But if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up. Subscribe as well to the channel. And yeah, drop comments down below what you thought of the Mighty War. And would you like to see more videos like this in the future of these really heavy themed builds? I remember doing some full White Lion themed builds as well, which were absolutely glorious to watch. There are links down below in the description if you would like to support me via Patreon or join my Discord. And on my Discord, you can submit replays to the channel, get involved in the tournaments and events I host, and just chill out with a load of cool people. But anyway, back to the battle and the good stuff. The mighty Wurzag, 846 damage value, doesn't seem that crazy, but the Bonewood Staff really helps massively, making our full Savage build just go absolutely ham and crazy and really rip and tear into the enemy. Plus extra style points, I think, for the Foot of the Gork at the end. Savage Orcs did okay, nothing too crazy, but look at those kills, 117 and 144. They were our chaff clearers, getting rid of all the zombies, get rid of all the skeletons, and allow the other lads to surround the bigger creatures. As for the Savage Orc big guns, pretty impressive stuff. 940 damage value, 739, 1,172, 800, and 1.3k as well. Really not bad damage dealt across the board there from the guys, and decent kills as well. I mean, 149, 128, very impressive stuff. MVPs, though, for sure, were the Savage Orc Arrow boys. I mean, they synergized really well with Wurzag because of his ability to pin in units. We missed a couple of uses of it, I think, where I think I pinned in the Vargulf a little bit early on, and eventually the Mortis engine there. Not the biggest kills across the board for these ones, but they were targeting down key targets, and that shows here in the damage value. 1,274 damage value, 568, 1,200 again, 200, and 1,000. So a little bit mixed bag, but very good across the board. Good play as well with the Savage Orc Boar Boys, just pinning enemy troops and still getting some decent value back. 1,000 here, 882 there. So for Danger Dave, we already spoke about the Destroyed Vampire Lord needing to be way more aggressive and just hunting down my key targets and only getting a rather meager 585 damage value. Good play by the White Kings, using their tier style item to really blitz in and do some damage, but apart from that, they just kind of got surrounded and dragged down by Savage Orc Biggins. Once they lost the chaff support, it really was all over for them. 700 damage value and 400 apiece, so nothing great, but nothing too terrible. Mortis engines struggled to get into the fight despite this. Mortis engines are pretty scary. 655 damage value, not bad whatsoever, but eventually was whittled down by the long-range bowfire. Unfortunately, the Fellbats kind of faltered in the early stages of the game. Sternsman at 677 damage value. The other Graveguard really suffering quite badly, including the Crypt Ghouls and the Spearmen. The Vargulf did, okay. It was bouncing around, being a pain in the butt and trying to harass my archer line, but I think summons should have been used in the back whilst the Vargulf and the Vampire Lord sniped Wurzag might have been the best way to do it, because I can then not protect my Lord as well as the archers. But again, the Savage Orcs Boar Boys did always stay relatively close to Wurzag, so I understand as well not wanting to risk charging in with your Lord, because if you lose your Lord with Vampire counts, particularly early in the game, it's basically just game over. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.